You're now tuned in to The Twisted Truth with Corey Wesley, where everyday conversations take an unexpected turn. Entrepreneur, artist, author, and truth seeker, Corey Wesley is here to challenge the way we think, question the norms, and bring fresh perspectives to life, business, and beyond. With unfiltered discussions, special guests, and real talk, get ready for a show that's bold, insightful, and always a little twisted. Buckle up, because the truth isn't always what it seems. And now, here's your host, Corey Wesley. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Twisted Truth with me, Corey Wesley. We make mistakes. Mistakes are something that we all do, but a lot of times they hinder us from moving forward. We feel bad about mistakes. And recently, just yesterday, I was on the phone with my ride or die, my bestie, John, and there was something wrong with my website. I'm an artist, not just a podcaster. It's one of my designs, although my best friend said don't wear it because it looked like I'm a MAGA, but I was speechless about the elections and stuff, so I created these. But anyway, something happened on my website and stuff wasn't loading, and he was like, well, it might be something wrong with a certain file. And in the past, I would be yelling and screaming and crying because, as an entrepreneur and wanting to do good and putting your best foot forward, everything, and then being self-funded, everything matters. Everything is important, right? And so everything is magnified and intensified. And so I was in the past, so anxious and have anxiety and stress that I would just be yelling and screaming when a mistake happened. But this time, what prompted this podcast was that I was calm. Although he was talking in my ear and I was trying to fix something and I was going into the back end of our website and fixing some coding, it wasn't that I snapped at him. Excuse me, I snapped at him a little bit, but the only reason was because I was trying to concentrate. And so at the end of it, he was like, wow, I'm really proud of you. And I was like, why? And I said, why? And he made it clear that I wasn't flustered. And I was comfortable in doing what I was doing. And literally, I got it done. And then we did some checking and everything was working smoothly. And I was sitting back and saying, wow, I've come so far that mistakes make us better. And the reason why I say that is because, and let's go back, when I was fairly new with developing a website, understanding SEO, search engine optimization, and just understanding robot files and schemas and things of that nature. And you're probably sitting there saying, what the heck? Right, exactly. That's what I was feeling, in the past, because I didn't even know about any of that. People think that you're supposed to be like, oh my gosh, you got a website and you do this little thing. And if you're self-funded, investing in advertising on Google Ads, and if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to spend a lot of money. Like me, we spent $5,000 last year on Google Ads and didn't see any profit at all. It was a waste of money because I didn't know what I was doing. And so, yes, it can be frustrating. Now, when you talk about losing money, let's be honest. We don't want to be making mistakes when we got money on the line. And that is why I pulled back. A year and a half ago, what I did with my business, I looked at all the expenses and tried to figure out what can I do without And then AI came along, and a lot of people were scared with AI. And AI started helping me do certain things, like developing, my website and checking coding and stuff like that. And it changed my game plan. It changed everything. But it's the mistakes from earlier days, like when me and my best friend I used to have an online magazine when HTML was all that we had. We didn't have these special websites that have, templates and coding their own language, programming language. And I lost my website, and oh my God, I was crying. I had worked so hard, and I didn't even, we were self-taught with HTML. We didn't go to school for programming. And it was at that point in the past devastating. Okay. And I felt like every mistake was a failure. I really, really did. I really felt like everything I did was not working. Every mistake was like 10 degrees. And I hope that you don't hear the police. Because it's loud. It's odd. And I'm not trying to segue, but I live on Fifth Avenue, right? And in the winter, you don't hear nothing. Nothing. As soon as the sun and the weather breaks, that's all I hear is ambulances, fire trucks, all that. I was like, oh my God. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying was that in the past, those mistakes had so much weight. They meant so much that I was defeated, devastated. It didn't make sense at the point of why I kept making mistakes. And obviously, when you're learning, you're going to make mistakes. But see, I'm now realizing that my cool demeanor this last time around was because I had made mistakes in the past. So now I'm trying to think about, well, what is different this time with making a mistake and why I'm not so emotional when I make a mistake. Mistakes are there to help you grow. There is nothing in the world that you can just wake up. Now, some people have that talent and that gift, and that's a blessing. But you wake up and say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, da, 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 da. And you may not know two twats about anything, about whatever you're pursuing, or writing a book, writing a song. I don't know. Anything that you're pursuing, you don't know it all. I used to be people used to, a know it all. I guess that's what a know it all is. Somebody that hasn't made enough mistakes. Okay. And they just rattling off saying what they think versus what they know. We know those people, right? And it's very uncomfortable to attach yourself to mistakes, right? But I'm prepared to let you know that mistakes make you better. My cool demeanor is because of all those mistakes in the past. And now I can look back. Yes, I can look back in hindsight and say, wow, that's what it may allow me to do, is have growth. I have made a tons of mistakes. And I think I'm realizing too is being able to share your mistakes. A lot of people hold those mistakes so close to their heart or on their sleeve so much that it causes them so much pain, anxiety, and stress. But and I know when you're in something and you've made that mistake, it's hard to kind of step back and say, okay, I made this mistake. I gotta, you know, get over it. And I hate the word get over it, but I say it's more about not getting over it, but taking accountability for the mistake, whether it hurts someone else or whether it hurts you, or what. It's a learning tool. That mistake is a learning tool. As they say, if you know better, you do better. And I believe that to be very, very true. I am not as emotional. Now, there, I ain't gonna say I'm perfect because I'm not Evangelista perfect. My girl Aja on RuPaul Drag Race, she's gonna be on the tournament section of RuPaul Drag Race. I'm so excited. But anyway, it's that you're not perfect. No one's perfect, and the mistakes as you're making them seem so unbearable. But I'm here to tell you there's three things that I can say is that don't react, okay? You can't react to the mistake because you have to reassure yourself that this mistake has happened for a reason. I know you look at saying, nah, that ain't true. Yes, it did happen for a reason. You may not understand that reason today, but that mistake is there for you for whatever reason. And sometimes it's not important for you to understand the mistake. But as I was saying, before I went on a tangent, is accountability. It's understanding and acknowledging that you made the mistake and that there is something to learn from the mistake. I usually replay a situation in my mind and try to figure out how I could have done something differently. And the reason why I'm so good at that now is because when I used to try dating and stuff, and everything was happening wrong. Everything. And it was always the other person's fault, right? But then I created a blog called All About Dating, and it was ranked number 7 as one of the best dating blogs in the country in 2007, I think, or it's been a long time. But I took scenarios of my own personal and my friends, and they all had bad endings, right? But as I was writing, I was trying to change the trajectory of that situation, of how it could have been better, or how I could have handled it better, how it could have ended better on both parties. And what that allowed me to do is look at scenarios or mistakes as ways to learn how could something be better. Because and on interviews, people used to say, well, what's one of your weaknesses? And I say, well, I don't really have a weakness because everything I do can be better. I mean, really, truly, anything I do, I could do better. I can learn more. I can read more. I take classes. There's a lot of stuff that we can do to improve ourselves. Okay. And so I believe that mistakes are the essence of creating footprints or blueprints towards a better version of ourselves. Now, some people are not ready to learn from those mistakes. They shove them down and they ignore them. They're delusional, as some would say. But what you will notice is that they repeat the same mistakes. If you acknowledge and you try to learn from the mistake, don't let it define you. Don't let it make you feel like a defeat. Because I know it's easy to feel defeated when you make a mistake. First thing to do also, I mean, not the first thing, but a couple of things I said, breathe, don't react. Why did I make that mistake? Ask yourself, why did I make that mistake? You could have been triggered. You could have less knowledge about something. Maybe you reacted. Don't react. That's another thing. Don't react when you make a mistake. When you react, you're making it more about you being less than versus you being in a learning process. Saying to yourself, wow, okay, I made a mistake. Didn't mean to make that mistake, but maybe this person said something and I rushed to get it done. and I was hasty in my decisions, or I didn't read all the way through the instructions. Just like we get everybody gets all these um furniture pieces, and there have been times I put stuff backwards many a time. And I used to get mad and angry because one, we don't like to put nothing together anyway, and I don't want to pay nobody. So you're sitting there trying to read the instructions. A look like this box, this item looks like that item, and then I put things backwards all the time, and I used to get so frustrated and angry. And then I realized I wasn't taking my time. I didn't want to do it in the first place, so I already set myself up for failure. And then I realized once I just calmed down, and yes, those little hex, whatever thing, I said, oh, those things hurt trying to screw. I got a drill. Didn't even know it. Had a drill with all the pieces in the closet. But that made my life easier. That I prepared myself as I started to figure out, well, wait, that's not working. How can I make this better? And then now I take my time. I don't know if you can see, I put that whole thing together, and I have to tell you, my little it's like a fireplace thing. I put the top on from the back to the front, and then when I put it up, I was like, oh my God, this top, because you could tell from the back it was on backwards. I didn't panic because it was completed. I unscrewed them tops, took it off, flipped it around, and it was done. But can you imagine when you sit there and you're just sad and anxious and just frustrated at making the mistake, that you don't have time to clear your mind, think about how can you fix it and why did you make the mistake? And honestly, it's about that accountability. I wasn't reading the instructions. I was frustrated. I didn't want to do it anyway. I hated putting the furniture together. And obviously, when you put this negative energy out there, what happens? Negative stuff happens, right? So I just wanted to get in because I was really proud of myself today, last night, when I didn't get upset and I fixed it really quickly. I did tell my friend, I snapped a little bit at him and I said, stop. But I was trying to concentrate because I know I can get flustered if somebody is talking while you're trying to work on code and stuff. But after it was over and he acknowledged it, and I was very proud. I said, oh, wow, you noticed I didn't get upset. I was like, dang. Yes, I had a reaction, but not the emotional reaction. I was like, ugh. I knew that I had made the mistake, and he triggered a thought process like, oh, well, maybe your robot file is up. And I started checking stuff, and hence he did know something was wrong in that area. There was a couple other things that I had coded wrong, but thanks to what I call my assistant, ChatGPT, I put that code in. It told me, nope, this is wrong. But like I tell people with ChatGPT and stuff like that, you have to know what you're asking. I always refer back to that movie I, Robot, where Will Smith is at the top of the mountain or whatever, and that holograph or whatever it was, the person, his mentor was like, you're not asking the right questions. If you don't ask the right questions, you're going to get the wrong information. But I have been working so hard on this stuff and making mistakes that I've become so savvy that I did not have to panic. And I didn't panic, and I fixed it. From all the mistakes, geared me and prepared me for being this person that doesn't have to react when I make a mistake. I'm human. And I think when we say it, but we don't believe that because we are human, we are going to make mistakes. But it's about the acknowledgement that it's a lesson and there's a reason. But see, sometimes when you hear that, you want the reason today. But just in the knowing that the answer for why that happened will eventually reveal itself should be comforting. Although I know we want things, and Mama said, you want things right now. And yes, I am still kind of that person. I want it right now. But sometimes answers are not necessary for right now. The mistake is what you need to figure out why and how you can improve from that mistake. Once you do that, I truly, truly believe that the answer to why you made that mistake will come to you at the weirdest moment, like mine, when I wasn't reactive. I wasn't upset. I got it done. And then I had an aha moment and said, wow. So what I'm trying to say is it's not going to slap you in the face of, oh yeah, 20 years ago or 10 years ago or a few months ago, that was the mistake. No, it's not going to happen that way. I don't believe it will happen that way, but I believe that what it will happen is you're just going to be like, oh, or someone's going to acknowledge your growth. As my best friend, I kind of said, hey, do you notice? Because I noticed it. And I was like, oh, I didn't get upset and it's done. And we were moving on. I wasn't yelling at him. I wasn't snapping at him. I wasn't taking out my frustration on him. And I just got it done. And then I looked back and said, oh, that's because I made a lot of mistakes up until this point, but I allowed those mistakes. I kept growing from those mistakes. And I realize now those mistakes were the true lesson of being an entrepreneur. If you want to work for yourself or you want to be a success at anything that you really do, you have to make mistakes. And that comes with the territory. Just like I tell people, because I'm a recovery coach with addiction and stuff. Relapses are part of the process. It's going to happen. Don't beat yourself up. Don't start with number one again in the day. Just pick yourself up and as you see, the times of your usage will go far and far and far away from the time. And it just depends on what you want. But again, it's all about the mistakes and the lessons that you make, that you go through to better yourself. So I always say they're stepping stones. The mistakes are stepping stones. If you're not making enough mistakes, you're not learning. Just remember that. If you are not making a lot of mistakes, and I don't want to say a lot of mistakes, but if you're doing something new, something unknown, and you're not making any mistakes, something's wrong. You're doing something wrong. And I mean, be clear, there might be luck on your side. I mean, and that's a great thing. But you can't learn unless you make mistakes. When you know better, you do better. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Twisted Truth with me, Corey Wesley. Today's topic was about mistakes. Make them. And as I always end off, love yourself, believe in yourself, and trust yourself. Thanks again for tuning in. Remember to like, subscribe, and tell your friends all about Corey Wesley on The Twisted Truth. Have a good day. That's a wrap for this episode of The Twisted Truth with Corey Wesley. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with someone who needs a fresh perspective. Remember to stay curious, stay bold, and always remember this: the truth isn't always what it seems. Until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep twisting the truth. See you soon.